Well, it seems like civil war is now inevitable, at least according to Tucker Carlson.
We are the superiorly armed beings.
Hey everybody, Yankee here. I want to take a moment today and talk about impending civil war. Is it going to happen? Why is it going to happen? Etc. I was watching a video from Tucker Carlson just yesterday, and in this video he said that civil war is pretty much inevitable now because Americans are divided. And those people have nothing in common with each other. The people on one side of the issues have nothing in common with people on the other side of the issues. So therefore, because we have nothing in common with our neighbor even, he said, that civil war is going to happen. And I want to talk about that today. Is there going to be a civil war? Do we actually have nothing in common? Is that truth? Or is it just a fiction created by the powers that be, the elites that rule everything, the ones that tell Tucker Carlson what to say? Well, first off, I'm going to say there's not going to be a civil war. First off, the divisions he's talking about aren't just state against state. They're city against county, because even in red states, a lot of the bigger cities are controlled by Democrats. So if the issue is right versus left, well, you're going to have war within states. You're going to have Austin and Dallas fighting with the rest of Texas. And you might say, well, that's just one or two cities. Well, yeah, but that's a third to half the population right there. So you would have fighting inside of states. There would be no these states against those states. It would just be bedlam. And plus, who's going to actually fight? Most people are too lazy to get off their couch to change the channel. You think they're actually going to stand up and show up if there's a chance of actual fighting. Even these people that show up at, rallies and stuff with ARs strapped on their chest, in their full military drag. Do you think they're going to show up if they think people are shooting at them? No, they're not going to show up. You think the left is going to fight a civil war? The left isn't prepared to fight anything. They think, the government will take care of everything. And unfortunately, the right has started doing that too. For some reason, the right has become, bootlickers for authority. They love authority these days. They love the police. They love the military. They love the politicians that are on their side. Same thing with the left. They love the government. They love the politicians, and they'll protect us. And that's become on both sides now. Like I said, the right has been bowing down to authority more than ever, and the left has kind of always done it. So who's going to fight this war? The 5 or 10% of people that are actually concerned about all this? No, not going to happen. There's not going to be a civil war. And like I said, it couldn't really be in the way we're talking about. There's no longer divisions between states. It's even inside of states now. Even states like California that are super liberal, they have a lot of conservative pockets in it. You think they're just going to sit there? No, that's just not going to happen. It's not feasible, really. And are we all really divided? Do we not agree on anything? We have nothing in common. Well, that's ludicrous. That is ridiculous to sit here and listen to someone like Tucker Carlson, read his script he's given by the Peter Thiels and the George Soroses of the world, to read his little script to us and tell us how we have nothing in common. You know who we have nothing in common with? The people like Tucker Carlson and the billionaires he serves. The people that own our government, own our courts. Those are the people we have nothing in common with. This notion that you have nothing in common with a guy who lives on the same street as you, shops at the same store as you, maybe even has a job at the same factory you do. But the idea that you have nothing in common because you disagree on a few political issues, that you have more in common with the elites that are telling you what's really important, that's ridiculous. You'd have to be brain dead retarded to actually believe that. Us Americans, we have more in common with each other than we do the people in power and the people that are spreading the people in power's message. That's the truth. And even the things we disagree on, the hot topic issues, guns, everything else, we don't really disagree on the same topics. Because, the things on the left that the right gets infuriated about, well, they're not the actual topic. They're the right-wing radical version of that left-wing topic that you're being fed by the elitist-controlled right-wing media. Same thing on the left. the things you're getting angry about, the things on the right that they believe in that you're so upset about isn't really the issue. It isn't the reality. It's the left-wing, fanatical version that you're being force-fed by that same media that feeds the right, only they're doing it under a different name, to the left, to keep us divided. You're not actually upset about the issue. You're upset about that version of the issue that they're shoving down your throat. The stuff you think the right believes, they don't believe. The stuff that the right thinks the left believe, they don't believe. Because you're getting fed a ridiculous, fanaticized version of it to divide people. The real issues are much less contentious. If most people sat down and talked about real issues, they would say, okay, we disagree on some aspects of it, but we really agree on the end product. You know, people who don't like guns want less murder. People, they think that, oh, the right is just okay with as many murders as possible as long as they get to keep their guns. And no, that's not true. We want less murders too. And if we were actually able to sit down and talk to each other instead of being divided by the elites, we'd be able to say, well, the goal is actually less murder, less crime. So let's talk about how being armed can prevent crime. And let's talk about how if we stop focusing on the guns, we can focus on the mental health issues, the social issues, etc., that contribute to the high murder rates. And most of that is going to be interpersonal issues like maybe marriage counseling, psychological counseling, keep taking care of people who have mental health issues, PTSD, etc. We'd actually be able to solve a problem because we would say, hey, those extremist views that everyone was telling us you have, you don't really have those. So let's sit down and work on real solutions. That would work 90% of the time. Now, there'd still be some things we all disagreed on, but that's always been the case. And back in the day, even in my day, before there was a billionaire behind every issue, we were able to disagree on things as long as it didn't get crazy. The only reason it gets crazy now is because billionaires take facts and twist them. They even go as far as to say, you know, the other side that disagrees with you, they're evil. We even had the president put out a post recently with that, well, the other side, the opposition is evil. There's very little evil in the world. There's very few evil people. We've seen what evil people can do if they're left unchecked. And you know who the evil people usually are? The ones telling you everybody else is evil. It's kind of like pedophiles. If you know someone that goes around saying everybody's a pedophile, even though there's no evidence they're a pedophile, that person's probably a pedophile. Same thing with this whole evil, the other side's evil. No, they're not evil. They're Americans with different opinions. And the differences are just amplified through this elitist controlled media to make you think things like that. Don't fall for that. Don't be a pawn of the powers that be, because we have way more in common than we have differences. Now, there are people on the extremes. There are racist right-wingers. There are, communist left-wingers. Those things exist, but those aren't evil even in themselves. Those are character flaws. And they should work on them. They're not irredeemable. Evil's irredeemable. I think most people, even in the extremes, through education and understanding and conversation and discourse, could actually come more to common ground and be less extreme. People are usually extreme because they're forced into it through circumstance. They're bred into it through being taught nothing else since they're young. And when they see other things, other aspects, they start to understand that, hey, everything isn't black and white. Everything isn't evil and good. So I don't think most people are irredeemable even in the extremes. But like I said, they're still the extremes. Most of us are not extreme. Most of us fall somewhere in the middle, either slightly left or slightly right. And we've got a lot in common with each other. Far more in common with each other than we do the people in power that are telling us we don't. And you might say to yourself, well, why are they doing this, though? Why are they trying to promote the idea of civil war? Well, because if they can convince you that they're not the problem, that your neighbor's the problem, well, if we go to civil war, well, that's the best alternative they can think of to rebellion. Because if we came together and understood that we're the ones that have the things in common and they're the ones that are gaming the system, well, then we would rebel against them. And there ain't enough of them to fight us. If that ever happened, if there was ever true rebellion of the American people against the powers that have corrupted our democracy, it'd be over pretty quick. Because the right wing, that is actually a little more prepared to fight, if the left wing said, you're right, we have a common enemy, well, people on the right would be like, right, here's a rifle, let's go get them. And people on the left would be like, well, you know what to do, you lead the way. If they were able to come together. And that's the worst thing for the people in power. The 1% can only maintain power if the other 99% are pointing at each other about the problems and fighting with each other. So they love the idea of civil war because that means it's not rebellion. What we really need in this country is a good rebellion. We need to take back our country for the people, not the elites, not the right, not the left, not anything extreme, just for the people. And then we can deal with our differences. We can deal with our issues because if most Americans come together, look at all the things we have fixed about our country in the past. People love to say, hey, America's just as bad as everybody else. Look at all the bad things they did in the past. And I'm like, yeah, we did. And you know what? We came together and we fixed it. We made it better. And if it wasn't for the fact that in the last 30, 40 years, we've had this intervention of the ruling class taking power through complete control of media and government, we'd still be fixing our issues instead of having them amplified. We'd come up with a system with, even so, let's talk about something not as non-controversial as abortion. If we all accepted, the reality of what it is and what it means, we could all work to a solution where no one ever had to have an abortion. Because no one wants someone to have an abortion. I know one side's told the other side just wants to kill babies. And one side's told the other side wants to have 12-year-olds get raped and be forced to bear the child. And that's just not the case. If we were able to get through the noise, we would let's try to make a system where abortion's never even an issue. There's not unwanted pregnancies. People are more emotionally able to deal with issues. You don't have a lot of girls going, if I let him hit it raw, he'll know I love him. And then when the guy just goes, hey, she's going to hit it raw, she's a skank. If we could deal with those emotional issues that are causing that type of thing, we'd really reduce the need for abortions. It'd be a non-issue. So that's what they don't want. They don't want people coming together and solving problems. They don't want people saying, I respect your religious belief that, an embryo is a child. And they can say, I respect your non-religious belief that it isn't. But we have to work together to find how we can just stop abortions. That's the worst thing that could happen to the elites. And that's not really my opinions on abortion, period. I'm just using that as an example because, like I said, it's such a non-controversial issue. But as I was saying, the only reason they want civil war is because it's an alternative to rebellion. Because if we actually come together and rebel, well, then we'll be able to solve all of our problems. And if we solve our problems, we'll solve most of them. We're not perfect. But if we solve most of our big problems and we start to realize, hey, we're all Americans, and anyone that is an American who's a legal American citizen is part of the same team, well, then nobody else stands a chance, including those billionaires that have corrupted our system, corrupted our government, taken control of our courts. Even though they have all those levers of power, they wouldn't be able to stand up against Americans who are united and are determined to solve their problems, because those people, the elites that are dividing us, they're the major problem. And they'd be the first thing to go if we ever united and rebelled.